Ready to Love Philly is finally back. Okay, and Ready to Love was giving all kinds of ex drama this week. All right, we had a double elimination, but what stood out to me the most, okay, it was Shanice. I was like, not Shanice leaving with more grace than she came in with, because y'all remember she did have that naked date with Cisco, okay, and I feel like remember them saying she was the only one that was naked. He had on some shorts. But I thought that was good. I really like how she handled her elimination. But I wanted to talk about why people watch reality TV, right? Because I love reality TV, especially the dating shows, because I don't know, it's just something about watching people in these controlled environments, and the people that get in on the show and the things that happen. Because the one thing that you cannot account for in reality TV is going to be how that person shows up, right? You don't know what kind of, like, whether they had enough sleep, have they been, taking care of themselves, do they have any triggers that are fresh, and, are they stressed out? Like, all of that matters when it comes to whatever reaction people have when they go on these reality shows, because the reality shows are high stress. There's cameras always rolling, right? So you just never know how a person is going to show up, okay? So reality TV is messy and dramatic, and we love to talk about those things, but I feel like, well, I don't even feel like, I have been watching and learning how to pinpoint, self-care gaps, if you will. Like, when a person has a certain reaction, that identifies a gap in self-care. And so what I do is I look at my own self-care when I see people reacting however on TV. I be like, how's my communication? How's my stress levels? How's my sleep? How, and the list goes on and on when it comes to self-care. We're talking mental really, but mental, physical, and spiritual, because let's be real, when you're going on these dating shows, people really care how you look. That appearance is going to be the first thing that attracts you or whatever. But the way people show up in these dating shows, or even just like the reality shows like Big Brother or whatever, it shows a lot about their communication, and it also shows a lot about what could be missing or what they're doing really good in their self-care regimen. Because you see a lot of people that will be on the end of some type of blow up, and they handle it with complete grace, and you think, how in the world did this person not go off and slap this person? Well, that means that the person who had the emotionally mature reaction is a person who focuses on their mental self-care, okay? Mental and spiritual self-care, I would say, but definitely mental. Like, they were able to control themselves and therefore not be whatever topic we're talking about this week in self-care. All right, so anyway, back to the episode, because like I said, I liked how Shanice handled her elimination. I felt like she no longer was even thinking about her being there for dating. She was like, if God put me here just to show you that, he loves you and that you're a king. She said some very uplifting words to him. And I know the cameras were there or whatever, but that says a lot about Shanice, all right? Even though she was naked on that other day, the fact that she did that, I respected that, all right? So this week, the fellas got to meet the ladies' exes. And I was really, really looking forward to certain people's exes, but it didn't really work out the way I thought it was. We had some no-shows, right? Because some people were like, that was a toxic relationship, or Tay was like, some of her exes are in other relationships. It'd be weird to, come on TV for your ex or whatever. Now, the thing about these meeting the exes episodes, like, it could be very productive, right? It could be a productive meeting with the ex. You figure out, like, you find out, how the person may have grown. You can find out, whether they learned lessons and things like that. You can find out whether they had any, like, communication issues, or how they handle conflict is a big one. However, sometimes the conversation just doesn't go like that, right? We're going to talk about Kiara and Jay meeting Kiara's ex. That was a whole crazy situation, because I feel like the ex was just trying to sabotage whatever Kiara has going on, and he was like a low-key hater to me. I don't know, but I did like the fact that Hussein was collecting data. Okay, he was thinking about the right things going into these situations when he was meeting the ex, and he was paying attention to the right things too, because sometimes what's not said says a lot. So anyway, we'll get into that when we talk about them, because even though some of the people had no shows, if you had like a toxic relationship or something like that, excuse my dog in the background, he's tripping. If you had a toxic relationship or something like that is self-care, not opening that door back up just for a moment on TV. Listen, I'm the one on reality TV. I don't need to reconnect with this toxic ass person just for a moment on a TV show, because the person probably would have came on there and done more damage than good anyway. So that is actually a good self-care move. However, on the flip side, it makes it hard for the new person who's meeting the ex that wanted to ask questions to get to know a little bit more, because you only have the word of the person who you're dating, right? So you don't get the other person's side. But that's actually like real life, because when you're dating in real life, you're not meeting up with your person's ex to discuss how their relationship went. So I don't see nothing wrong with that. They're just going to have to, keep on going forward. I don't think the people who didn't have exes to show up should be judged by that, because the ex could have been a hater anyway, and whatever. So I don't feel like that's bad. So Sahara, her ex, she said that one of her recent exes had passed away, but she got really vulnerable with Cam, and I think that was a good look, because she is used to not doing that. So I thought that was good. But we're going to start off with Angie, okay? Because Angie is running around here totally focused on herself, which I ain't mad at her. You know what I'm saying? You should be focused on yourself. But she let Hussein meet her son's father, but she did not let Cam meet her son's father, which that actually says a lot. But then in the end, she was like feeling some kind of way, because she didn't realize Cam would even care like that or whatever. But when her ex met with Hussein, he said that he told this story about when she was pregnant and had to drive to the hospital, and that she was in labor and she would not let him drive, and she drove herself, and he was sitting in the passenger seat for that ride. Now, I could see how that is very, he probably felt really small at that point, because he didn't feel like he was helping. And why is she driving while she's in labor? So he felt like he felt unwanted, or like she could do everything or whatever. So, like she did everything herself. So that kind of stood out to Hussein, which that is a good thing to pay attention to. So we'll see how that plays out, because, now that Cam said that he wants, he feels some type of way about meeting the father, we're going to see how she act. But when you're dating, regardless of whether this is like speed dating on crack, part of dating is letting people in, because otherwise, what are you doing? If she didn't want Cam to meet her son's father, I feel like, she looks at him a different kind of way. So that does say a lot or whatever. So anyway, let's get to Kiara and Jay now. Kiara is funny. Okay, Kiara's funny. Obviously, we're not going to meet her ex that's locked up, because he's locked up, right? But this dude that she brought on here was somebody that this whole situation was weird to me, because of what Jay said. Because when they do those cutaways, they're not doing it right then and there. So it's other information that he knew, which is why he said that, how is y'all a crush when you 9 years older than her? Like, that is pretty weird, because dude, when you were 18, she would have been 9. I didn't get that. You know what I'm saying? The guy said that she had a crush on him, and he waited till she was of age, and then he jumped on that opportunity. Who knows? But dude just seems a little bit off to me. And Kiara said that she had to keep on telling him that they are friends, which means that he is not respecting her boundaries, because she has to keep repeating herself. That should tell Kiara that if I got to keep repeating myself, he is not respecting what I'm saying. Cut him off. Why are you keeping him around? So Jay picked up on that. Jay is like, this is your ex? Like, who is this dude? Because dude basically was like, I still have feelings for her, and, I want her to be happy, even if it's not with me. But that's like a big pill to swallow, right? So Jay is really looking at this dude like he's a clown, and it just wasn't, wasn't a good look. But my my assessment of that is like Kiara needs to set her boundaries with this dude. You know what I mean? Close that door so you can see your future. You know what I'm saying? Jay sitting there looking at you like you crazy, just like you looking at dude like he crazy. So we're gonna see what Jay say, because I feel like, ironically, Kiara is gonna get into it with Jay from the future previews, and it seems like I remember her saying that he don't set boundaries, which is interesting because in this situation with the ex, she has no boundaries set because he didn't care about the fact that they're supposed to be friends, right? So I don't know. And sidebar, I'm starting to like Khalil too. Khalil didn't get a lot of camera time until like the 5th or 6th episode. But I'm really starting to like Khalil. We're watching Khalil. All right, we're watching Khalil because Tay did not have an ex, right? Because she said that some of her exes have moved on and stuff like that. And so she had Cisco, Khalil, and Naeem, right? And so they all had a conversation and a talk or whatever. But I was liking Khalil. But he did also kind of side out the fact that she didn't have no exes. But like I said, I don't really think that you should judge that, because in the real world, you are not going to go sit down and talk to your person's ex unless they want to meet you because y'all getting serious and that's the father of their child. That's the only way I can see that or whatever. But anyway, so Sahara opened up to Cam, which I feel like she really needed to do. And I feel like her and Cam could be a good couple. But as I said before, this was all filmed a year ago. Who knows what's happening now, right? But in this moment that they're showing us, I feel like, yeah, Cam kind of gets Sahara more than anybody else did. That's my thought. And so Sahara was like, she's tired of being a ride or die, tired of riding and dying. And that is messed up, because I feel like Sahara is really a good person. I want Sahara to win. Yeah, she's not as polished as everybody else. She says, a lot of things that, everybody else may not say, but I want her to keep being her authentic self, okay? I want her to let people in, all right? And I want her to just pay attention to herself. That's what I want her to do, all right? Because loyalty is great, but not at the cost of your peace. Like, no, ma'am. No. You tired because you're not paying attention to the fact that you're not being loyal to yourself. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. So we're gonna move on to Cisco and Shanice, because so this episode started with a double elimination. Fritz and Eddie was out of there, okay? And then on the block this week, and I keep saying on the block like it's Big Brother, but y'all gotta just roll with me because I don't know. I like saying on the block. On the chopping block, right? On the chopping block was Shanice and Angie, okay? Now, Angie plays too much sometimes, so I don't know. She better be careful, because I don't know. But Angie got to stay, and Shanice got let go, and she was on a date with Cisco. Now, Cisco felt really bad about having to let her go, tell her that it wasn't, that she wasn't ready to love, and he cried, and she said that part where, like I said, about, if God sent me here just to show you that you're loved, and, et cetera, right? He got emotional, and I feel like that was a good moment. However, in his cutaway, he said it was at that moment that he realized that if he had to make the decision between Tay and Shanice, Tay would have been his choice. So, but I do think that, Shanice was a real one for leaving out like that, okay? But I want to know how long that scene was filmed. Like, how much time did it take for them to do that? You know what I mean? Especially on the date where Cisco was meeting Shanice's ex and he emphasized Tay's beauty. Shanice felt some type of way about that, but I also want to know how long that conversation lasted. Like, how long was he sitting there talking about how beautiful Tay was? I don't know, because Shanice looked real irritated, okay? But she left with grace, and we're going to go, we're going to leave it at that, because when you're dating, y'all know I'm a self-care enthusiast. I love everything self-care, and I'm always talking about it, and it is so apparent in dating. So when you're dating, communication and dignity is something that often comes up, right? She was kind of I ain't even gonna say kind of. She was without dignity when she was naked on that painting date. All right, but her communication, it is clear with all the guys. Like, they like the way that she communicated. Outside of the fact that they feel like she was copying and pasting her messages, she was able to get have good conversations with some of the guys that the other ladies weren't. Right. She had a connection with Fritz, and nobody really connected with him. And so that, I thought that was good, right? I thought that was good. And how she left, I loved it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Get in the comments below, let me know what you thought about that whole thing. I was talking about her gloves in the beginning because it was hot, and I know it was hot, and I was just like, why does she have these gloves on? But, you know, all of that is all right now because of how she left. I like that. So, anyway, this week, to me, I thought it was a good episode. I don't know if it was because I felt deprived for the last 4 months. We haven't had an episode, and y'all know this is my favorite show to review. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next week. What do y'all think is going to happen next week? Who's going home? And then how many couples do we have? Because we got a couple of people who are feeling more than one person. It's getting down to the wire as far as like the amount of people. They about to have a getaway soon. So, what do y'all think? Next week, the ladies have the power and they get to meet the friends of the guys. Okay, so that should be interesting. And again, a lot of times we don't know if these people that they're bringing on as their friends or exes are real exes. So we kind of got to just watch and see what is said. But I hope the ladies had good questions for the friends. And I think it's going to be a good episode. Okay. It looks like Cam might have been in the hot seat next week for something. I can't remember what it was, but I wanted to say that, again, y'all know I'm about self-care, and I want to talk about how, much we feel that reality TV is relatable to our real life. A lot of people don't even realize it. You know what I'm saying? Because, we've all been stressed, right? We've all been stressed, and we've all been in a situation where we had to react to something. And how you react has everything to do with what kind of day you have it. Sometimes people might have a situation where they like, not right now, not today, not today, not today. I can't, no, not today, right? And so I want to make a point that your self-care decides how you're going to react, how you show up when life is pressuring you, right? Because reality TV is lights, camera, action. It's pressure. It's a stressful environment. Okay, so I don't know. I just kind of wanted to say that. Until next week, make sure y'all check out. Like I said, Cam and Cisco have a podcast, Toxic Perspective. Y'all go look at that. If you are into self-care and taking care of yourself, and you want to know how you can, you know, make sure you include self-care daily, because I definitely do. All right, it doesn't have to be the same form of self-care every day, but I make sure that I handle me before anything else. All right, and if you want to know more about how to do that, make sure you follow the podcast, Self-Care Revolution. All right, the weekly reset is coming up, and so you guys can check that out. It's basically just, you know, a way to start your week with you as the focus. All right, because life is going to happen. You can't really do anything about that, but what you can do is take care of yourself. All right, you got to protect your peace. You have to speak your truth, and you have to know when to walk away when something isn't for you. All right, we see people all the time stay in something that they don't need to be in. But so with that being said, I'm out of here. I will see y'all in the next video. Get in the comments below and let me know what you thought about this week's episode.